tech nerds, anime fans, a match made in heaven to give you giant robots. Now I'm going to be going over how I would create one realistically with today's technology. Now I know what some of you may be thinking, but do not worry. I haven't figured out how to activate the Dead Sea Scrolls, so you don't have to worry about the first, second, or third impacts. And I will also not be leaving the fate of humanity in the hands of a moody teenager who did some questionable things inside of a hospital. Don't worry guys, we're going to go a little bit low tech for this episode. First things first is the design, how we actually want it to look. I wanted my base to be a Pacific Rim humanoid type of robot because I think that's just the coolest and the most realistic. I also wanted my mech to be around the 120 to 220 foot range because why not? And also it's going to help with fueling and energy. So for weapons, I wasn't thinking anything too crazy. Maybe some swords, some side-mounted machine guns controlled by actuated autonomous arms. Nothing too crazy, nothing that will have Homeland snatching me up in the middle of the night, you know? Next up is materials and construction. I'm going to go into how I'm going to build this thing. 3D printing or additive manufacturing has advanced to such a point where it's going to make my job easy. But instead of me yapping about it, I'm going to have someone else yap about it for me.
We are able to make materials that didn't exist prior to additive. And in some cases, they're new families of materials. And some examples are GR-Cop 42. It's a copper chrome niobium material that we use for high conductivity, high strength for rocket combustion chambers.
Now, the high strength is obviously desirable when you're dealing with massive ongoing explosions and shockwaves inside of.
Here's where I jumped in. So thanks to 3D printing, we're able to create new materials that have never existed before. And that's going to be very helpful when creating a super strong mech or robot or Jaeger, whatever you want to call it. Now we have the strong material, now we need a way to put that strong material together or build super complex things. And this is where CNCs come in.
At the bottom of the part, we have two separate inlets that'll take fluid and mix it together into a single set of channels and produce a mixture coming out of the top of the part. On the side of the part, we have two ports that'll take a different temperature of fluid and flush it through that center cavity and encourage a heat exchange. We printed out a 316L stainless steel with a 20 micron layer height and no supports. And the machine delivered. So the cool thing about this machine is we can manufacture parts like this that would be impossible using traditional manufacturing methods without a lot of design changes and assembly steps, and we did it completely unattended. I went and handled other tasks, I came back, I raised the part out of the powder bed, and I was blown away at the level of detail that it achieved. So we're really just scratching the surface of what this technology is capable of. This thing can print hip joints, it can print aerospace parts, it can print lattice structures. This technology is literally changing people's lives.
So with CNCing and 3D printing, building complex part is a lot easier. Now the only thing is building them at a large scale. Luckily for us, rocket companies are already paving the way forward.
A halt. Now here is the way that Relativity builds a rocket. The company has their special aluminum printing alloy rendered into long coils of wire, and that wire is fed into a robotic articulated print head. The rocket segment is constructed on a rotating turntable-style platform, so as the printhead lays down the material, the part continuously spins around and around and around, slowly and steadily growing larger with every rotation. This machine can make the straight sides, the curves, the domes, all in one process without having to move around or be retooled. 3D printing can even make this insane-looking 3D part for Terran R that was being printed in this video clip. It's some kind of a dome section with an intricate pattern of wavy ripples throughout. I don't know what it does.
Okay, so now we gotta figure out how to power this thing and get it going. So I decided to go with a solid-state battery because I think it provides a lot of opportunities and benefits to create a good power source for a mech. Safety-wise, solid-state batteries are the perfect choice because they're able to be punctured and still function. So you don't have to worry about being a side character in a Gundam show where you die a fiery death. Next is energy density. Solid-state batteries are able to pack in a lot more power than lithium-ion batteries in a smaller form factor, but we'll probably be going a larger form factor for even more power. And then when charge does run out, solid state batteries are able to be recharged extremely quickly because of the way that they're structured and built. So that means I can have backup batteries on standby, or even return to base and charge up my mech in no time flat. Next is temperature performance. Being able to withstand a blizzard or a Saharan desert heat would be very important, especially if you don't want your mech dying on you, and then you in turn. No mech or robot is complete without the ability to move dynamically. Before I begin, I want to show you a video.
Parkour is a useful organizing activity for our team because it highlights several challenges that we believe to be important. First, how do we build a high power density mobile robot that's capable of extended athletic behavior? How do we design control algorithms that can create a variety of behaviors and control them robustly? And how do we connect perception to action in a way that both captures long-term goals like getting from point A to point B and short-term dynamic goals like adjusting footsteps and applying corrective forces to maintain balance?
What makes Parkour Mountain hard was not so much the individual moves, those had been worked on a lot prior to kind of pulling together, but running the entire course, doing it in one contiguous set of operations really drives the need for reliability and repeatability. And these are things that are pragmatic, but really difficult. And that's what the team really focused on. I think the biggest success is being able to show all of those exciting things pulled together and done repeatably and reliably.
It can be frustrating sometimes. The robots crash a lot. It's not the robot just magically deciding to do parkour. It's kind of a choreographed routine, much like, a skateboard video or a parkour video where, it's an athlete that's practiced these moves dozens or hundreds of times even to get to that, that high level, that exciting, capability. So we're kind of doing the same thing here with Atlas. We're exploring, how to push it to its limits.
So with things like AI and computer movement algorithms, making robots do complex movements like parkour is now a pretty easy thing to do. We have motors in cars that are able to produce hundreds of horsepower and hundreds of pounds of torque, and that's just motors built specifically for cars. You can scale up the design or make a new design to fit your needs, let's say like building a mech. And with the advancements of energy density in batteries, or at least solid state batteries, you can now push your motors for longer and harder, which would be very important for a mech that's doing insane movements. Next, I'm going to go into how I would control and pilot this thing. There's usually two ways of piloting a mech. First is with active movement, like the ones that you see in Pacific Rim, where every movement that they make, the robot makes. Second is a cockpit, where usually the pilot is seated and is still able to control the robot fully through some advanced technology. I wanted to use the cockpit design because we actually have the technology now to make it work. So I made a video previously about full dive VR headsets, and in that video I talk about how AI is helping us decode human thoughts and turn that into action. And with something like that, piloting a mech will become a lot easier. That's why I decided to go with a cockpit. And also, instead of looking at a display, I'll have a VR headset on that has pass-through capabilities with cameras on my mech. And I'll have a array of sensors that read my thoughts and turn that into actual movements. So think about having an onboard AI like BT from Titanfall 2, where I am able to think about a movement, then the AI is able to turn that into actual movements of the mech. To wrap this all up, I just want you to think about how we are continuously advancing and developing technology to the point where now building a mech does not sound crazy.